This is the closing market report for Wednesday on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Riley Smith. On the phone right now with Bill Moore of Price Futures Group as we wrap up another day in the ag marketplace. Bill, what have we seen going on in the grain and livestock markets today?
Well, it was another day of pretty earth-shattering war news. The Trump administration did a 180 after one day of this, what they call the Project Freedom, where they had U.S. military ships in the Strait of Hormuz helping civilian ships through. And there was some firing going on between U.S. and Iran a couple of days ago as a result of that. And now they have suspended Project Freedom because President Trump has stated overnight that he thought peace was at hand with Iran. We heard that before, but the markets took it to heart, particularly the crude oil, the most important market. When the news came out and the market started trading, crude down, at one time was down about $12 or $13. If you look at a 5-minute chart of crude, around 7 o'clock this morning, it was down under $90, $11, $12 lower in the day. Now it's rallied back to about $6 lower. You know, again, we've heard analysts are skeptical because we've heard these claims of peace talks before, but they always seem to stumble on the nuclear issues. People are wondering if that's going to happen again. China's in favor of the end of the war. That might be pushing it. Trump's ratings at 62% disapproval, the lowest in his 2 terms as president. That might be pushing it with the midterms coming in November. A lot of pressures in this situation. Feels like he bit off more than he could chew, taking on Iran and maybe not fully calculating the impact on oil and oil prices, which have gone through the roof worldwide and hurting consumers and threatening more inflation, which means no more interest rate cuts. So anyway, we're all hoping that it's true, but the market put a lot of credence in it. Again, with the crude even still down $5 or $6, the stock market, as a result of of that news, is up about 500 or 600 points. You know, we'll see it in the grains are reducing the war premium down pretty hard. Corn's down a dime in July, beans down 15, July wheat down 9. So that's the biggest news. Still, we're looking at planting numbers that came out Monday ahead of schedule. 38% in corn, 34 is the average. 33% in beans, 23 is the average. Good to excellent on wheat, 31%, which is just a percent over last week. It's pretty low. We're supposed to, I think, get good ethanol production today, 1 to 1.1 million barrels, with stocks around 25.8 million barrels. Indicates good ethanol demand. And the third thing would be the report that's coming out on next week, the 12th of May, WASDE report. The market's looking forward to that as well. Looking forward to the 15th or 16th when the U.S. and China are supposed to meet in Beijing, talk about trade. Hopefully that meeting is still on despite the war. We'll see some bean business between now and then. So again, those are the big threes in the market per normal. Again, once the war taking precedence today. Also, you've got a big open interest in the grains on the long side, the war premium built in, and people feeling that this could get extracted pretty quickly if indeed a peace deal does come to fruition. So we'll see what happens there. Again, the big three: the war, the opening of the Straits of Hormuz, the planning progress above average, and the U.S.-China summit coming hopefully next week. Livestock-wise, we're looking at a market that's surprisingly tame today. June cattle only up 50 cents. With the stock market and the war news, maybe peace news out, you think the cattle would be jumping. It's been a bull market, but after retreating about $7 to $8 last week, it's managed to get maybe half of that back, but it couldn't do much today with the news. So we'll see. Maybe that's an indication that we are finally close to the top in the cattle. Great fundamentals in cattle, tight supplies, the best demand period of the year, the grilling season. But to reach a level where the consumer says enough is enough, and maybe we've reached that level. At these record levels, we'll see what happens. Hogs continue to hug the lows, and that's been the dichotomy between and the meats. Normally they go together, but in recent times the hog market hugged the lows while the cattle market's hugging the highs. Pretty unusual, but that's the case. And once again today, June hogs down $1.70. Even though the stock market's up and the peace news is at hand, hogs right under lows of the year, trading right now about $12 off the highs made in early February. So that the economy continues between the very cheap hogs and the very expensive cattle.
All right, Bill, lots of great information today. For anybody who would like to get in touch for more marketing information and check out your newsletter, how can they do that?
630-947-5176. wmore@pricegroup.com. Check out my newsletter, Agmaster, or www.pricegroup.com, the company website. Look at the bios of Jack Scoville and myself. We've both been there a long time. We'd love to help you out.
That again was Bill Moore of Price Futures Group. We'll look at the numbers next.
In rural Iowa, you need reliable information. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network brings you ag-specific content like market trends, weather outlooks, and policy updates that matter to your operation, while your local station brings you community news and consistent updates on what is happening in your area. It's a partnership built for the challenges of rural life. Your farm, your local station, and your friends at the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, where Iowa Ag matters. Find us online at iowaagnet.com.
At the close, July corn down 11.5 at 468.5. December new crop down 10.5 at 490 even. July soybeans down 16 3/4 at 11.94 3/4. November new crop down 14 even at 11.75.5. July soybean meal down 3.10 at 3.17.30. Soybean oil down $1.89 at 75.02. Chicago wheat down 10.5 at 6.17 1/4. Kansas City hard red winter wheat down 3 even at 6.87 even. Minneapolis spring wheat down 4 even at 6.92 even. July oats down 12 1/4 at 3.46 1/4. On the Merck, June live cattle up 25 cents at 253.47. May feeders up 57 cents at 372.40. June lean hogs down $1.72 at 99.70. Pork cutout down 10 cents at 115.75. And May Class 3 milk up 13 cents at 17.14. That's been a check of the closing markets. Thanks again to Bill Moore of Price Futures Group for joining us today here on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, where Iowa Ag matters. I'm Riley Smith.